email and video that I sent out. Java with Jolynn, it's something I've wanted to do for literally like 10 years and just have never done it. So, um, starting in with this, and I was sitting in church on Sunday and was thinking about this whole ruling that came out. And I was also thinking about, well, I was reading all of the comments on social media about how people were literally just freaking out over it. And it reminded me about um, around 2010, I think it was when the Dodd-Frank Act changed the totally changed the landscape of lending and threw in place a whole bunch of rules. And I can remember being literally nervous because at that point, I guess I'd been in the industry about 8 years or so. Um, I was working for a broker at the time, and there were just so many things that were just making me nervous about it. So, I thought, this is totally like how it was in 2010. My, your, as a real estate agent, your entire landscape is about to change. So, um, been thinking about it, and I thought, I just need to do Java with Jolynn. This needs to be our first topic. So here we are. That's how we got here. The other way that we got here is I want to introduce our guest speaker today, which he, um, I volunteered him to come talk on Mondays. So, um, Jim is to me what you all in your industry call a sign call. It was a little bit over a year ago, I think it was. It was a year ago, I think in December, Jim, when we met.
Mhm.
And he called because he was buying a historical home in Guthrie. By the way, it's called Judges Chambers now. It was the first home of the first Supreme Court justice. Is that right? In Guthrie?
Yep,
Okay.
sure was.
So he bought it. He is making it into a bed and breakfast. It is so nice. And once it gets fully up and operational, oh, and I will actually do a little plug here. He is looking for like a retired couple that could be an innkeeper.
Mhm.
If you all know of anyone who would be great for doing that, they would get to live on the premises, right?
Correct.
Yeah, they live on the premises, so part of their compensation is free room and got to be have great personalities. So anyway, Jim's looking for that if y'all know of anyone. So anyway, that is how I first met Jim. Is he called in to the bank looking for a loan for this property, and he was sent over to me, and that has landed us into a fantastic friendship here for about the last year. And I have to say, I have learned quite a bit from the man. He is very fascinating. Uh, is it 36 properties that you own in Southern California? It's something around there. And
Yeah.
commercial, mix of residential. Um, I will say, don't let that C word, California, scare y'all off. Uh, he I think he fits in better here than he does in California for sure. That's why we get along so well. And he's been in the business for 46 years now. 40,
47. Ooh,
47.
man.
47. He's a broker, and just has a complete wealth of knowledge. So I he was over at the house for dinner. Usually when he comes into town, he comes over to the house or we meet and we just have a great conversations. And so I asked him, okay, Jim, what's going to happen? And that led to a good hour-long conversation, which we don't have today, that much time today. So I was like, Jim, tell us your wisdom. And so I'm going to give you the floor. And if I missed anything about you, um, fill people in on how cool you are.
Okay. Well, I am very cool because I am from California, but no, shouldn't have started off that way. Uh, we'll let you decide that. I've been in the business 47 years. I have seen changes galore. When I started, there was a one-page listing form. There were no disclosures, and there was a two-page uh, PSA. And so things have changed, and every time things change, we get scared. I remember in 2000, you mentioned 2010, when the Frank Dodd app. Remember the year 2000? We thought all our computers were going to crash. The apocalypse was going to happen, and everything was horrible. And it didn't happen that way. And this is the same thing. This is a fundamental change in the way we do business. Not necessarily do business, but certainly the way we're compensated. So there's a lot of scary thoughts out there, and everybody is doom and gloom right now. However, I think that we've got a great opportunity uh, to do things differently, and to, as a sale broker, as a buyer's broker, to really stand out and show the point of differences that we have. We are now with two fundamental changes. What are they? Well, it's a 180-page document that shows the settlement from NAR and all these brokers. I won't get into the nuances because I haven't read them, but there's two fundamental changes. One is that on the MLS, we cannot show buyers, brokers compensation. Can't be in there. However, it doesn't mean that the sellers don't pay the buyer's broker. And we'll get into that a little bit later. And the other thing is, and I think this is a plus, is that buyers brokers are going to be required, and the buyers are going to be required to sign a contract saying, you are my broker, just like a listing broker. And I think that's good, because how many times have you, by the way, the most litigated item between brokers is procuring cause. Won't get into that either, but just like nobody's going to poach a listing from you after it's signed, nobody's going to poach a buyer from you after that's been signed. That's happened to me many a time, because somebody at an open house says, oh, well, I can do this for you cheaper. And all of a sudden you've lost a client. Now the buyer's agents are going to have a contract. I think that's good. We've always pushed that. I've been in the governance of real estate here in Carr in California. We've always pushed that buyers and brokers agreements, we've had them, but normally less than 20% have been signed. And now that's going to be a mandate. I think that's a good thing. But again, that isn't the crux of this. The crux is buyers agents are saying, how am I going to be compensated? And that really is going to be the topic of conversation. Here's the thing. Brokers who represent listing sellers, they're going to be sitting down and they're saying, I'm the seller, and I'm saying, oh, good, I don't have to listing compensation for buyers, because the buyer is going to pay that instead of me. As a listing broker, I'm going to say about that, you don't have to list, and you don't have to give the buyer's brokers compensation. However, let me ask you this, Mr. Seller. We mostly, and again, this is going to differ from different areas. You've got a buyer who's going to have 3.5% down, and they're scraping that together, and they're going to buy your house, and yet they're going to have to pay the buyer's broker 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%. It's all negotiable. And so I tell you what, I think that you're really interested in what you're going to net, and you're interested in that buyer. You want as much buyer pool as you can possibly get. My suggestion is that we do offer compensation, because the reality is the money is either going to come from you and we have a higher purchase price, or from them. And because it's cash, they can't finance their buyer's fee. Then, what do you want? It's really all about net to you, isn't it, Mr. Seller? So why don't we go on the offense and offer the buyer's agent compensation so that you can have a greater buyer pool? I think that is the way to approach it. Now, we uh, we sellers, I'm a seller, I'm a buyer, I'm a broker, but in this case, me seller, I interview sales brokers and say, what are you going to do for me? As a matter of fact, Jolynn, we're now the buyer's broker is kind of in the same uh, 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 position that Jolynn is. I was looking as a buyer to a lender, and I interviewed many lenders. I'm a complicated guy. I can save a lot of money by going to Rocket Mortgage. And
Well,
guess
no, you
what?
can't, Jim, but that's beside the point. Go ahead.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Well, I think I great point, Jolynn. I
Hmm.
think I can, but I really can't. So Jolynn has to tell me why I can't save money at Rocket Mortgage. Um, and so that's what we're going to have to do to our buyers is say, everybody, this is probably how it's going to come down. We're going to get people to say, I will be your buyer's broker for $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. We're going to see that, and the service is going to be commensurate with that. We now have to tell our buyers, you are going to hire me as a buyer's broker, and let me tell you the value that I add. It's a great thing that Jolynn said. I thought, oh, I can just save money doing that. And Jolynn said, actually, you can't. And let me tell you why. Well, before her, and by the way, I went to California brokers, lenders, things like that. And they basically told me, three of them, two of them were my friends, said, Jim, we can't get you a loan because you're too complicated. I went to Jolynn and she got me, I think, what is it, five loans we've done together.
Three,
Uh,
yeah, four, and then
and then the
get a
commercial.
commercial loan for you.
I will not go to, and if Jolynn asked me to sign a contract that says I am your lender, I would do it because she adds value to the transaction. I know it's going to go through. That's what buyers agents are going to have to do. Buyers are going to interview you. They're going to ask, and you're going to give them the value that you bring to the table because they're right now, I see it. We will do this for X amount of dollars, and you're going to be competing with those discount buyers agents, and you're going to say, no, this is the most important transaction of your life. And let me tell you, I've been in this business 47 years. This is the most complicated, hardest to do transaction wise that I've ever seen in my 47 years. There are the disclosures, there is the liability. I'm telling you what, you need to prove your value. How is this going to shake out? I don't know. But I think that we are much ado about nothing because I think it's going to shake out. Buyers brokers are going to be compensated. The reality is, and I don't know if I can say this, but the buyer really does pay for their buyer's agent in the form of the purchase price. If I'm going to buy a property for $300,000 and the seller says, oh, I don't have to pay a 5%, a 4%, a 6% commission, then obviously I'm going to take less for the property. Sellers are concerned about one thing: how much am I going to net? That's really the bottom line. And so
Mhm.
if they have to pay less in commission, then they're going to net more. Somebody who's going to be buying, they're probably going to, in order to compete with compensation, they're going to pay a little bit more for the property. So that's probably what's going to happen. The biggest thing I think, and the biggest stumbling block, is the FHA VA buyers who only have a limited amount of down payment, and then they have to compensate the broker. That we'll see how it shakes out. But really now, as again, as a selling broker, I've changed hats, and I'm going to say, guys, I would suggest that you do pay the seller, the buyer's agent, because that will open up the buyer's pool, because they have limited resources. And really, isn't it? Don't you want to sell your house, and don't you want to sell it for the highest price with the highest net in the least amount of time? And so that's probably the biggest stumbling block. But I do think that because less than 20% of buyers agents sign a contract for buyers, I think that's a good thing. So
I I do too. So one of the things that we were talking about um on Monday is, NAR has put out that list of, it's like 180 things that a real estate agent does for you. And I read through it and I thought, well, some of this is actually, I mean, some of it was like really good, yes, but some of it was kind of stupid, frankly, some of the things that they said on there. But I got to thinking about it, and Jim and I had this conversation of, it's not necessarily what you do for them. You need, okay, how many hours of education do y'all have to have? I mean, oh, I know. I was talking to an agent just yesterday who said that her daughter is a nurse. And she said, Mom, I don't even have to have this much continuing ed as a nurse. So you all, and me for that matter, we have a wealth of knowledge, and we know laws, right? Of what you can and can't do. So let's say that you have a seller who's like, I don't mind paying a broker's agent, or a selling agent, but I'm just going to do for sale by owner. I can get my own house out there. So we talked about a few things on Monday. So I don't think it's necessarily that's when you start telling them, well, this is what all I do for you. It's, you need to start asking them questions. Okay, so how are you going, where are you going to put your listing? Oh, on Zillow. Okay, well, Zillow, Car, we were talking about this last night. Homes.com is bigger than Zillow right now. Okay, well, do they know to put it on there? But are you going to tell them? The answer is no. Don't tell them that Zillow's not number one. Say, and Bo, here's what you do say is you say, did you know that Zillow is not the number one website for listings right now? Oh, it's not? Well, what is? Well, that's why you need to list with me. And how are you going to write up that listing description? Oh, well, I was just going to put this, this, and this. Well, did you know what you just said will actually get you sued? Because maybe they did a fair housing violation. Maybe they did, you know, put something in their description. Well, that'll get them sued. And they'll, well, what's wrong with that? Okay, Mr. Seller, I have to have fill in the blank of however many hours of continuing ed you have to have every year, and say, I have to, as your fiduciary, stay educated on all of the different real estate laws. And I'm not going to tell you, what in that description is going to get you sued. That's part of my knowledge. That's part of the service that I provide for you. And that's part of my worth. Jim, expand on that, because you and I talked about that quite a bit.
yeah, no, that's a
Monday.
great. And I want to go back to. I've said that things are complicated so much more than they were. That's bad, but it's good, because you do need someone who is a very competent agent. We can get sued for not having the right website now. I mean, it's a scary landscape out there. And we as professionals need to let our clients know, this is why you're using me. This is why you're paying this money. And again, I'm going to go back to the buyer's agent. because that's really who is affected here most. You've never been interviewed as a buyer's agent because nobody's compensated you as a buyer's agent. It's been the other. So you just needed to show me the right house, and you don't really know what I am doing. So it's like, as a buyer, I'm thinking, well, all I need is somebody to show me a house, and
And
that's that.
unlock a door for me and fill in a few
Unlock
blanks.
the door and write up a contract.
Mhm.
That's not the way it's going to be anymore, because I'm going to sign a contract with you that says you are my client. You're going to buy from me. So all of a sudden, I, that's great. I'm now going to prove myself and say all these things that Jolynn just said, and say, hey, buyer's agents are different. It's not just somebody who's going to unlock the door and tell me what you want to pay. I'm going to tell them step by step how I am better than the next agent or the next agent, because this is what I do. This is the education I have. These are the transactions. This is what I do for you. I keep you out of hot water. Hey, once that door is closed and you've got the property, uh, I'm still here, and I am. And again, we just need to show that we add value, because we are going to be competing with other agents that we didn't compete with before, because the buyers just didn't understand that there is a difference on the buying, because they didn't pay for it. When I pay for something, then by golly, I want to know that I'm getting the value for it.
That's right. And so as a selling agent and someone, you stick out that form that only 20% of agents get signed, that buyer broker agreement, and they're going to say, "Well, why should I why should I sign this with you?
Hmm.
What are you going to say?" Because that's a script that probably, well, 80% of us have never had to say.
Let me
So,
interrupt now.
go ahead.
Can I say
Yeah,
this?
absolutely.
I think buyers agents don't do that because they're afraid that they're
Mhm.
not going to be signed. To be honest with you, I haven't had, as a real estate, I've never had a buyer sign one of those. And frankly, I think it was fear based, because I thought, well, what if they don't sign it? And now you have to. So I have to put myself in a position of selling myself. I haven't sold myself as a buyer's agent when I sold real estate. It was just, here I am, I'll show you the house. Now I have to sell myself. I think I can now have more buyers, because I think I am a better buyer's agent than a lot of people. And I'm going to prove to you why. And now that we have to have a signature, I think, we're shifting that role. We've always had to sell ourselves as a listing broker, but we haven't as a buyer's. And now we have to do that. And we're going to have a contract with that buyer that says, if you buy a house, you're going to buy through me.
Correct. And so for me, you know, in the mortgage business, when all of this stuff changed and everybody, for me, in when the lending world changed and, everybody was so afraid, there were some things that I was like, this is good because this is going to weed out
Hmm.
some of the bad agents, for one, or bad lenders. There was a guy I worked with who literally did one loan a month. And that was okay because you know what he did? He charged them so much in rate and fees that he would laugh about it later and say, "Man, I just totally cut their head off with that transaction." And I thought, you are such a horrible individual for doing that. And yeah, that guy is no longer in the mortgage business, thank God, because he needed to go. And I think if I ask every one of you all that are on this, you all know someone that really needs to go out of your industry, probably. And so that part is a good thing because if they can't sell themselves, like I know everyone on this call can, um, you've just eliminated some of your competition. But let's go back to So you're sitting down with a buyer now. So guess what? You're not going to be driving them around all over town showing them houses. And then they go, oh, well, I went and found a for sale by owner.
Hmm. Right.
Hello, you have an agreement with me. And guess what? If you don't sign it with me and you want to buy a house, you're going to have to sign it with someone else.
Hmm.
This is new
Hmm.
to our industry. And hey, I always tell people too in the mortgage business, people that I talk to now on the phone, I hate this stupid form. I hate all of this documentation that you have to give me. I know you feel like that you've given me everything but the kitchen sink to get this loan done. And I am really, really sorry, but it's not me. I'm just the messenger. Okay, well, guess what? I am really sorry. I hate these. I know that you and I are loyal to each other. So you're planting that, subliminal message in their head already. Hey, I know that you and I are loyal to each other, but now this form is required. And frankly, you all, I would start this speech today,
I
even
agree.
though,
100% is I love that this is required now, Jolynn, because
Mhm,
buyers are fickle. Every one of your viewers right now are going to say, yep, and everybody's got a story.
mhm,
Going back to weeding out the agents, is this new uh, settlement agreement, is it going to weed out the marginal agents? Absolutely. Is that a good thing? Absolutely. If I were going to say, in let's take Guthrie, there's going to be a thousand, 2,000 homes sold this year. Do you know, with less agents, how many houses are going to be sold in Guthrie this year? 2,000. If there's if the amount of
mhm,
transactions isn't going to change, but weeding out the bad agents or the marginal agents or whatever you want to do
mhm,
is more transactions for the professionals. That
mhm.
again, you're only weeding out the broker pool, not how many transactions. So that's a good thing.
It is. And so, just like we were talking about with sellers, ask them the questions, well, do you know how to write up a compliant listing that's not going to get you sued? Well, no, what do I need to say? Well, no, that's why you hire me. Y'all don't give them the answers. I know everyone wants to be helpful. Don't give them the answers because that's what you get paid for. So
Mhm.
when that buyer is like, well, I don't know if I want to sign with you or not. I'm not comfortable signing this form. Oh, okay. So are you just going to go look on your own because and not have anyone represent you because you have to sign with someone. It is now required. So, are you going to go and use the agent that's on the house that, by the way, is actually working for that seller, not you? And so then you would have to sign with them. And are they looking out for your best interest? Okay, so as a buyer, who are you going to call for your home inspection? Well, I don't know any home inspectors. Oh, well, I have vetted all of the ones here in Oklahoma City. I know who's best. I know who's not good as a home inspector. And I have my list of trusted people. Well, give me one of those names. Sorry, I don't work that way. So let's go back to that home inspection, Mr. Miss Buyer. When you find, you know, mold in the vents, but you're under contract, how are you going to negotiate that out? Do you feel comfortable talking to that seller? Do you know what to say to get that either cleaned up? Do you know how to get yourself out of the contract? Well, no, I don't. Okay, I do. This is what I do for a living. I am your professional. This is why you need to sign this form right here with me. Does that make sense? Does it seem way less daunting? I mean, from when you say it? that way. I personally think that it does. I think this is um fantastic. So um I wrote down a few things as they were coming to me. I saw on some posts, there was somebody had written a post on Facebook, and of course it was anonymous, and it said, thank God for this ruling by buying agents. Good Lord. There was like 400 comments on it with people just going crazy. And I'm like, y'all, that's nothing but clickbait. There is some guy in California sitting around in his white t-shirt, just posting stuff just
That's
to
me.
watch you people freak out. Don't, it's clickbait. Don't bite into it and don't pay any attention to it. Um, because there were so many rumors about things in the mortgage business that were going to happen. Well, with the CD, well, nobody's ever going to close on time. Closings are going to take 3 months now. Well, guess what? They didn't. We still all close in our 30 to 45 days time frame like we always have. But that was one of the things that was always said about us is, oh, closings are going to take forever. Um, you will hear things, and some of them may be legit, but for right now, whatever it is that you hear, take it with a grain of salt. But if it sounds even halfway valid, do a little bit of investigation, talk to your broker, talk to other people. Um, oh, and this is something else that happened in the mortgage business, and I want you all to be ready for this. It seems like when there is something new like this that comes in, the pendulum just goes so far the other direction. Get ready for that because it will happen. Because people will be overly cautious, your broker will be overly cautious, and oh, well, we're going to follow it over here to the nth degree of the law, where really things will eventually settle back down. Oh, and guess what? Y'all, this will go on for, let's see here, if it's implemented, it's in July, I think, right, Jim? Is
July 1st.
when things, July 1st, okay? Y'all, get ready for a rodeo for about the next year,
Mhm,
year
mhm.
from
You,
July. It,
you know what?
after, do what?
I apologize for interrupting.
No.
Get in front of this.
Hmm.
Be a maverick and get in front of this instead of going, and
Hmm.
resisting. I want you to go on the offense, knowing it's here, getting in front of it. What does getting in front of it mean? It means just like take everything that is a part of a transaction, and you don't have to do scare tactics. It is scary. All you have to do, when you're taking Ambien or whatever it is, they say all the side effects. I go, oh, geez, I don't want to take that. Well, all you have to do is itemize all the things that are involved in a transaction. That's scary enough. And you basically say, as a buyer's agent, I have done this, I have all this, and lift everything, get in front of this and say, that's why I want to be your buyer's agent, not defensive. Well, hey, I'm your guy, I'm your gal, because this is what I do, and these are all the things that you have to do in order to have a transaction. You want a professional. If I'm getting heart surgery or anything, I want the best. I actually,
Hmm.
and people do. It used to be, well, if you're my guy, you're my guy. No, we Google people, we get reviews, we do our research because we can, and we're going to give that to our buyers, and we're going to say, pick me because I am the best, and you tell them why.
Yeah, it
Get
reminds me of that commercial where the guy is like, you know, doing surgery and someone else walks in. He goes, well, are you a doctor? And he was like, no, but I watched one last night on TV, and
awesome.
well, someone is going to kind of like me. They read articles online of, oh, Jolynn, an FHA loan. Now I read online that FHA will go down to a 500 credit score, and I just look at them and laugh because yeah, that is in their guidebook, but there is no lender with a 500 credit score that's going to give you a loan. Y'all, they're going to read stuff on they're going to Google stuff, they're going to read stuff on Zillow, they're going to read stuff here, and the person in the next cubicle is going to say, "Oh, well, on my transaction, this happened." Well, I something that I've started saying to people now when they call me and they say, "Well, the guy next to me here said that his loan did blah 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 blah." And I always say, "Does Joe Bob sitting next to you do loans day in and day out? And have they done them now for 22 years? Every day, all day?" "Oh, well, no." "Okay, you need to quit listening to Joe Bob because he works with you. He's a professional in whatever it is that you do. I'm the professional here. I know these rules, guidelines. I know how to make a transaction work. Joe Bob doesn't. So do me a favor for the rest of this transaction, quit listening to him and anyone else that tells you that they think they know the mortgage business because they don't. You need to
Mhm.
listen to me. You all are going to
Mhm.
have the same conversation with your people. Joe
Mhm.
Bob does not do real estate day in, day out. Joe Bob does not know real estate contracts, does not know real estate laws, does not know real estate regulations. So do me a favor, don't listen to Joe Bob. Listen, listen to me because I'm your professional. And then two other things, and we'll start wrapping this up, is um, you all, there will be new business models come out of this.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know what those will look like yet, but the online lender came from the mortgage regulation changes. So, and we all know what that has done to our world, online lenders. And then eventually there will be people who will start out and be absolutely adamant. Well, no, I'm not going to sign this agreement with you. And oh, well, I don't have to pay the listing um, or that selling agent, and I absolutely refuse to do so. And then guess what? There's going to be little baby lawsuits that are going to come out of this. A seller is going to get sued because they didn't disclose something. A buyer is going to get sued because they had a buyer broker agreement signed
Mhm.
and they didn't adhere to it. So that agent took them to court to get their money that they are rightfully owed. There will be some fallout, baby lawsuits spawned because of this.
Mhm.
And that may take 2 or 3 years to actually kind of come out towards like common knowledge and actually happen and all that stuff. But once that starts happening, that is when your true value will truly be known. Is you can
Mhm.
say, well, did you hear about the seller that got sued because they didn't disclose that they had bought a meth house? And that
Mhm.
meth was one time, made in this house. Yeah, it's been remediated, but they didn't disclose it. Or they didn't disclose, the termites. They didn't disclose this, or that, and they got sued for it. Do you know how to get around all that, Mr. Seller? Now that's going to be the conversation that's going to come 2 or 3 years down the road, but it will come. And
Mhm.
that's when that pendulum is going to start swinging back to the middle of, oh, agents really do have value. They
Mhm.
really do, you know, they a good one really earns their money. And here's the other thing too, if you don't have some kind of a follow-up system, that is the one thing that I see across the board that agents don't do is follow up and keep track of their leads and their closed sales because guess what? If you forget that you have a buyer broker agreement out there and you don't stay in touch with those people and they go and close with another agent, well, I mean, yeah, you got to collect your money some way. So how if you're not keeping track of your own business, it's on you if you don't get paid.
Mhm. Mm.
Any parting words, Jim?
Yeah, just I think that you either adapt or die, and I think that's what this is all about: is adapt, but don't do it in a defensive manner. Do it in an offensive manner, and say, okay, what is the good that's coming out of
Mhm.
this, and how am I going to play into this new world? And I think the folks who do, as I say, get in front of this are actually going to come out ahead. And I think uh, rather than fear, I think anticipation and really, I mean, excitement of, hey, this is a new game changer. We're all excited about AI. It's a game changer. It's new. How am I going to use it to my advantage? Do the same thing with this. Is say, how can I come out ahead on this? And I think if you're a true professional, know your business, and are a good agent, I think this is a great first step.
I do too. I really do think, especially for the people that I work with on a regular basis, you all, this is
This
this
ain't
is a
bad.
blessing. This is
Hmm.
an absolute blessing for you because, well, I quit working with non-quality agents a long time ago. And so, if we talk on a regular basis, it's because I know that you do things right. You do things ethically. You are the epitome of what a good agent is, and you are going to thrive in this situation, in this with these changes. So,
Agree. Agree.
anyway, I'll finish up. Stay dry today, my friends. And if you got kiddos home for spring break, I'm really sorry that y'all are going to be stuck in the house with, stir crazy kids today. But anyway, y'all have a great day. Call me. Let me know if you have questions or anything like that. Just want to sit and brainstorm, mastermind, whatever. I'm always here for you, and y'all know that. So, anyway, thank you. See y'all later.